The night was no longer a threat. It was a call. Istanbul woke up with unusual calm. There was no panic, but there was a strange feeling of waiting. On social media, a new tag was spreading. #MyChoice. People were dividing into two groups, those running from fear, and those curious about change. Emre's broadcast. Emre sat in front of the camera. He looked tired but strong. "Did you feel something last night?" he asked. This sentence started a fire of arguments. Underground Kerem. Kerem placed new files on the table. Title: Volunteer Program. Scientists were surprised. "Sir, will we allow it?" someone asked. Kerem's voice was cold. Forced change creates rebellion. Change by choice creates loyalty. But for the first time, there was doubt in his eyes. Elif was not part of the plan. The shelter. Elif looked out the window. Now she could clearly feel hearts. Those who were afraid. Those who were curious. And those who wanted the call. Aras came to her. "This is not you," he said. Elif shook her head. "No." The first volunteer in a small neighborhood. A man knocked on a door. "Military facility. I want to join the program," he said. The guard was surprised. "Why?" The man answered, "I would rather change than live in fear." The message reached Kerem. He closed his eyes. The plan was working, but he was no longer sure who the plan served. The crack. Aras felt the connection. A human was approaching the edge. Willingly. This was different. Not forced. Chosen. For the first time, Aras did not interfere. Elif closed her eyes. And connected. The man did not scream. He did not cry. He only trembled. When his eyes opened, they were not dark, but they reflected darkness. A new form. The first voluntary transformation in the city was complete. The news spread. Hundreds of messages at once. "I want it too. How can I join?" People were moving not from fear, but from desire for power. Myra turned to Aras. "This will get out of control." Aras whispered, "Maybe it should not be controlled." Elif's awareness. Elif knelt on the ground. The connection was growing. Now she was the center, not Aras. For a moment she even pushed Aras back. Aras was surprised. Elif opened her eyes. "I am not the bridge. I am the door." Kerem looked at the city from his balcony. Istanbul was shining. But it was no longer an ordinary city. The scientist came beside him. "Sir, more than 200 volunteers?" Kerem asked quietly. "The connection center." The scientist answered. Soldiers rushed inside. Silver bullets. Electromagnetic nets. They were prepared. Mira made the first move. She knocked a soldier to the ground with his own weapon. But she did not kill him. She was still protecting that line. Aras opened the connection. 11 vampires moved at the same time. This was not instinct anymore. It was organized. But the other side was organized too. This was not a hunt. It was a war. Elif stood in the middle. The connection was turning around her. One soldier took out a special injector. Kerem's signature. "Capture her alive," came the order on the radio. Elif was not afraid. Not this time. As her eyes darkened, the city shook. In Istanbul, People suddenly stopped. A cashier dropped the receipt. A taxi driver let go of the steering wheel. A child looked out the window. They all felt the same thing. A call. But it was not Aras. It was Elif. In the back corridor of the shelter, someone was walking. Calm, unarmed, Ke saw him. She wanted to attack. Kerem spoke. If you kill me now, the connection will turn into chaos. Aras arrived. For the first time, face to face. The silence was heavy. Kerem looked at Aras. You started this. Aras spoke quietly. You forced it. Kerem shook his head. Humanity always evolves under pressure. Aras stepped closer. This is not evolution. It is manipulation. Kerem answered sharply. You are manipulation too. A soldier injected Elif. At that moment. Everything broke. Elif screamed. The connection exploded. Aras attacked Kerem. A wall collapsed. Mira disabled the soldiers, but something else was happening in the city. This time not only vampires, hundreds of people closed their eyes. For a few seconds they turned black, but not completely. A half form was spreading. Out of control. Kerem felt it. For the first time he was afraid. Stop, he shouted. Aras threw him against the wall. This is your fault. Kerem coughed blood. No, Elif. Elif was on the ground. The serum was burning in her veins. But the connection was flowing through her. She looked at Aras, then at Myra. Then at the soldiers. I am not a weapon, she said. She put her hands on the ground. She pulled the connection back. The vibration in the city slowed down. Black eyes returned to normal. But something remained. Inside people. A mark. The soldiers retreated. Kerem stood up, injured but alive. Elif is the center now, he said. You cannot stop her. Aras answered. We will not control her. Kerem narrowed his eyes. Then you will lose. He left. The shelter was half destroyed. Elif stood up. She was calmer now. But stronger. Our eyes felt the connection. The center was shared. There were two focuses now. Elif. And Aras. Myra understood. This will start a civil war. Elif answered quietly, no. This will be a war of choice. The camera rises. Istanbul shines in the night. But the city does not belong only to humans anymore. And the blood is still rising. Under Istanbul there was a hidden level not shown on maps. An old shelter. Cold. Smelling of metal. Kerem opened one single file on the table. Codename. Protocol Nemesis. A scientist whispered, Sir, this is irreversible. Kerem answered, clearly, there is no way back anyway. Nemesis was not a weapon. It was a frequency. A signal that could reverse the connection. It would break the mental network created by Aras and Elif. But at the same time, it would lock it into one single center. Controllable. One focus. One leader. Kerem whispered to himself. Evolution cannot be uncontrolled. Aras felt uneasy. The connection was unstable. Elif closed her eyes. Something is being prepared. Myra checked her weapon. An attack? Elif shook her head. No. It's coming from inside. 3:17 a.m. Suddenly the electricity went out. Istanbul fell into darkness. At the same time, a low-frequency vibration spread. People held their heads. Vampires fell to their knees. The connection was hit. Aras screamed. It was not physical. It was mental. The bond was not breaking. It was being forced to change direction. Elif stayed on her feet. Her eyes turned black, but this time, not uncontrolled. Focused. It's pulling us to one point, she said. Aras was struggling to breathe. The center. Elif opened her eyes. Kerem. Kerem looked at the screen. The graphics were rising. The connection was tightening. The focus is narrowing, said the technician. Kerem spoke firmly. Now. The main switch was turned. The frequency increased. In the city, some people fainted. Some screamed. Some opened their eyes. Completely black. But they were not connected to Aras, not to Elif. A new vibration appeared. Artificial cold. Kerem's frequency. Aras felt it. He is stealing the connection. Myra held Aras. Stay strong. Elif fell to her knees. Either I stop it now, or we lose it forever. Elif closed her eyes. She expanded the connection. She pushed it against the frequency. 2 waves crashed in the city. Windows shattered. Alarms rang. The underground system sparked. For the first time, Kerem looked panicked. This is impossible. The main system exploded. The electricity came back. The vibrations stopped. But something had changed. The connection was now in 3 parts. Aras, Elif, and an artificial trace. Kerem had not completely failed. A part remained. An uncontrollable part. Kerem was alone in the dark room. Injured, but his eyes were still. Determined. It was not full control, he said to himself. But the seed is planted. In the shelter, Aras looked at Elif. We are not alone anymore. Elif lifted her head. No, we are not the prey anymore. The camera rises. Istanbul looks normal, but some people can now darken their eyes consciously. And this time, they are not connected to anyone. Istanbul woke up under a grey fog. Normal life continued. But some people woke up differently. One of them, Mert, 24 years old, delivery courier, ordinary. Until that morning. When Mert opened his eyes, he heard heartbeats. From the whole apartment building, from people on the street. And from far away. A metallic vibration. It was not ARS. It was not ELIF. It was cold. Kerem was examining the remains of the destroyed system. Officially, the project was closed. But he knew. Nemesis was not completely dead. It found a carrier, he said. The scientist asked in fear. Who? Kerem looked at the screen. Mert's brain waves were shaking. There. Aras felt that something was wrong. The connection was not circular anymore. It was triangular. I've closed her eyes. There is another center. Myra frowned. Kerem. Elif shook her. No. Younger. Mert looked into his eyes in the mirror. For 1 second, they turned black, but not warm like Aras's, not wave-like like Elif's. Empty. He heard a voice, not clear, like a command. Gather. Mert jumped slightly. Who? No answer. But there was an urge. While walking, Mert heard a woman's heartbeat. He did not feel hunger. He felt power. The woman turned and looked at him. For a moment her eyes darkened. Then they returned to normal. A connection was created, but it was not voluntary. T was an infection. Elif suddenly stopped breathing. Someone is connecting people. By force. Aras became angry. Kerem? Elif shook her head. No, this connection has no owner. That was more frightening. Kerem was alone in a secret room. Mert's image was on the monitor. You are not my plan, he said. But there was hope in his eyes. Something he did not control had been born. But could it be guided? Myra loaded her weapon. We need to find him. Aras stopped her. What if he is a victim? Elif's voice was calm. No, not anymore. Mert closed his eyes. He pushed the connection. 20 people fell to their knees. By force. Their will breaking. Mert whispered. This is what power is. Aras and Elif felt it at the same time. Now there were 3 sides. Natural bond, Aras. Bridge bond, Elif. Forced bond, Mert. And all 3 were in the same city. Istanbul was now a battlefield. But this war would not be with blood. It would be with the mind. Aras was walking alone on the rooftops of Istanbul. Elif stayed behind. This confrontation was personal. He followed the vibration of the connection. Cold, sharp. Mert was standing on the roof of a factory. Without turning around, he spoke. I was waiting for you. Aras stepped closer. Let them go. Mert smiled slightly. Aren't you doing the same thing? Aras's voice was firm. I am not forcing them. Mert turned around. As his eyes darkened, several people in the city stumbled. Power does not ask for permission. Aras opened the connection. Mert did too. The 2 frequencies collided. Windows shook in the city. Some people held their heads. Elif felt it from far away. Stop, she whispered, but it was already too late. For a moment, the physical world disappeared. Aras and Mert stood face to face in a mental space. A dark emptiness. A pulsing light in the center. Mert spoke. You are weak. You give them a choice. Aras answered. Because choice is power. Mert shouted. No, control is power. And he pushed harder. 30 people in Istanbul fell to their knees. They were connected. By force. Aras felt it. Like pain, like anger. Aras expanded the connection, but not to force. To release. He touched the minds of the people Mert had connected. Choose, he said. Some people stood up. Bond broke. Mert lost balance. The real world returned. Mert attacked Aras. He was stronger than a normal human. The artificial bond was feeding him. Aras moved into defense. The roof cracked. Both of them were pushed to the edge. Mert whispered, Join me. Aras stopped. What? 3 centers are too many. 2 centers are weak. 1 center is strong. Aras understood. Mert did not want to share control. He wanted to swallow it. The real world returned. Mert attacked Aras. He was stronger than a normal human. The artificial bond was feeding him. Aras moved into defense. The roof cracked. Both of them were pushed to the edge. Mert whispered, Join me. Aras stopped. What? 3 centers are too many. 2 centers are weak. 1 center is strong. Aras understood. Mert did not want to share control. He wanted to swallow it. Mert disappeared into the darkness. Aras stayed at the edge of the roof. Elif came next to him. We cannot stop him. Aras looked at the distant city lights. They were flickering. No, he said. Either we transform him, or someone will fall. The connection continued to beat in 3 rhythms. But now the 2 centers knew each other, and this war was unavoidable. An abandoned shipyard in Istanbul. Smell of metal. Cold concrete. Mert stood in the middle. Around him 20 people. Their eyes darkened and trembled from time to time. They were conscious, but their will was not complete. Mert spoke. I gave you fearlessness, Aman answered. Silence the voice in my head. Mert approached. He placed his hand on the man's forehead. The bond tightened. The man relaxed. Will weakened. Loyalty increased. Mert gave his group a name, Unity. But the city would call them something else. Shadows. Because you did not see them coming, but you felt their effects. Aras understood the change in the connection. It is no longer individual. Elif closed her eyes. He is weaving a network. Myra placed her weapon on the table. So the war begins. Aras answered slowly. No. The rebellion begins. That night, shadows appeared in 3 neighborhoods at the same time. Doors were knocked. Come with us. Those who resisted fell to their knees. They were forced into the bond. Some surrendered willingly, because what Mert offered was simple. Fearlessness, no doubt. Pain. One single will. Underground. Kerem looked at the screens. Mert's graphs were rising. He has organized. The scientist asked in fear. Should we intervene? Kerem shook his head. No. His eyes were dark. Natural selection is accelerating. But inside, he knew this was no longer under his control. Aras opened the connection. He touched the people bonded by shadows, but the bond was thick. Hard. Like chains woven by force. Aras whispered, This is not power. Elif opened her eyes. This is addiction. Myra spoke sharply. An addiction creates war. In the shipyard, the shadows were lined up. Now they were 40. Mert walked. Choice is weakness. Elif leaves you uncertain. Aras makes you believe you are free. But his eyes turned, completely dark, give you order. The shadows closed their eyes at the same time. The bond synchronized. One pulse. In the city, a vampire connected to Aras was captured by the shadows, forced into the bond, but the 2 frequencies collided. The vampire screamed. The connection ripped. One of the shadows collapsed. Mert felt it. He smiled. There is resistance. Good. This will be fun. Istanbul was now divided into 3. Free bond. Aras. Bridge. Elif. Forced unity. Mert. Mert's army was growing. And numbers were power. Aras looked into the distance. If we do not stop him, Elif finished, the city will lose its will. Night falls. In the shipyard, 40 pairs of eyes darken at the same time, and the connection beats in a threatening rhythm. The night was harsh. The wind came sharp from the sea. The harbour area of Istanbul was silent. But the connection was not silent. The air in the shelter was heavy. Myra placed the map on the table. The locations are clear. The shipyard. Elif felt uneasy. There are at least 50 people there. Aras closed his eyes. He checked the connection. It felt like a cold wall. Mert's network. Tonight, said Aras. Myra looked up. Are you sure? Aras's voice was calm but firm. We will free them. Aras did not go alone. 12 vampires. Connected but free. Myra would handle physical support. Elif did not stay behind. If the bond breaks, I will be the bridge. Aras looked at her. Dangerous. Elif smiled slightly. I am already in the middle. Metal doors broke open. The shadows were ready. Mert stood in the center. He was not smiling. Finally, he said. Aras stepped forward. Let them go. Mert tilted his head. Take them if you can. Clash connections opened. 2 networks collided. The shadows formed a single frequency. Aras spread his free bond. Chains and wind. Pressure and freedom. One of the shadows felt the bond loosen. He fell to his knees. 10. His eyes trembled. Aras whispered, Choose. The man screamed. The bond broke. Mert's face hardened. Mira jumped into the fight. Gunshots echoed. But this was not a massacre. Aras did not kill. He was releasing people. This made Mert angrier. Weakness. He shouted. And he forced the bond. All the shadows turned toward Aras at once. Aras felt the pressure for the first time. Like chains. His knees bent. The connection narrowed. Mert approached. Become the single center. Aras closed his eyes. And he did something different. He did not close the bond. He expanded it. Not only to vampires. To Elif. To the freed ones. To a few humans in the neighborhood. The bond spread like a wave. It mixed with the forced frequency. 15 of the shadows were released. They collapsed to the ground. Shocked. Memi RT staggered backward. This was not a tactic he expected. This is not over, he said. Aras stood up. Anyone who breathes is free. Mert retreated. But his army remained. 25 of 40 were. Still bound, 15 were free. The first clash was won. Not the war. But the balance changed. That night, news reports appeared in Istanbul. Fight at abandoned shipyard. But no one knew the truth. Aras stood at the edge of the roof. He was tired. Elif came next to him. You weakened him. Aras shook his head. No, I angered him. In the distance, Mert walked in the darkness. His eyes were completely black. This time he was not silent. He was thinking of revenge. And forced loyalty would become harder. Silence always comes before the storm. The night in Istanbul was too calm. This calm was not natural. It was planned. After the defeat at the shipyard, Mert was not alone. The remaining shadows knelt in a half circle. 20-5 people. But harder now. The bond tighter. Mert did not speak at first. He only strengthened the connection. All of them knelt at the same time. This is a war, he said finally. And in war, mercy is weakness. This time the target was not Aras. Mert changed strategy. His power is hope. So we will break the hope. The map opened. The homes of the 15 freed people were marked Midnight doors in one neighborhood were broken. Sem, one of the freed ones, was dragged from his sleep. "No!" he shouted. The shadows did not answer. The bond was forced back on. But harder this time. More painful. Sem's scream reached Aras through the connection. Aras jumped up. Attacks happened in 3 different parts of the city at the same time. The freed ones were pulled back into the bond. One by one. Some tried to resist, but the forcing frequency had grown. Mert was not only bonding them, he was using pain. Aras stood on the roof. Mert was on the opposite building. No physical contact this time. Only a stare. Mert did not shout. He whispered, "Freedom hurts." Aras answered, "So do chains." Mert smiled and made his final move. All the shadows strengthened the bond at once. 50 people in the city fell to their knees. Elif entered the connection, but this time the pain shook her, because Mert was strengthening the bond in a way that damaged human consciousness. "He is breaking them," she said, trembling. Aras clenched his teeth. He expanded. The connection. But this was no longer a rescue. It was a test of endurance. 8 of the 15 freed people joined the shadows again. But 7, as the bond broke, they lost consciousness. They fell into comas. Mert felt it. He stopped for a moment. This was not in his plan, but he did not retreat. When night ended, the city was silent. But this time there was fear. Real fear. Aras collapsed, exhausted. "We cannot win without getting our hands dirty," Myra said. Elif lifted her head. "What if we don't have to win?" In the distance, Mert closed his eyes. The connection beat darker. This was no longer only a battle of power. It was a battle of will. And the first innocent people had fallen. The night was not silent this time. As Istanbul fell into darkness, the darkness also fell into the city. Aras stood on the roof of the broken factory. The wind was strong, but it did not shake him. The change inside him could no longer be hidden. What moved through his veins was not only blood. His human side and vampire side rubbed against each other, creating sparks. Below, Mert's army was gathering, hundreds of people, some fully vampires, some half-changed, some human but sworn to blood loyalty. Mert walked among them. He was not the same as before. His face was harder, his eyes colder. Power had changed him. "This night," he said, loudly, "the watchers will either kneel or disappear." The crowd answered with a rough sound, but Mert was thinking about something else. Aras, he did not want to kill him. He wanted to break him, because Aras represented the only part of Mert that had not completely turned dark. On the other side of the city, in underground tunnels, the watchers were gathering. Their leader, a man with a half mask and metallic shine in his eyes, stood over a map. "He built an army," he said in a calm voice. "He uses people, their emotions, their hunger." One watcher asked, "What about Aras?" The leader smiled slightly. "Aras has not chosen a side yet, but tonight he will." Aras closed his eyes on the roof. For a moment his heart slowed. Then he felt something, A cool dot. It was not Mert. It was not the Watcher's dot. It was something older. A whisper from deep inside his blood. The full transformation is starting. Aras dropped to his knees. The pain was not physical. It was not his bones breaking. It was his identity. Memories of his human life, childhood, fears, regrets, passed before him. The vampire side whispered. Leave your weaknesses. Aras clenched his teeth. No. A flash of light-like energy spread. Concrete at the edge of the roof cracked. The vampires below looked up. Mert felt it. Aras was changing. Mert attacked. This move was not a show of power. It was a test. Aras stopped the strike with one hand. The asphalt around them cracked. The vampires in the army stepped back. Mert narrowed his eyes. You really have changed. Aras's voice was calm. Double quotes, yes. But you are not what you think. This time Aras used balance, not speed. When Mert threw the second strike, Aras changed direction. He thought with human reflexes. He applied with vampire strength. This combination was something new, something dangerous. Metal covers opened from underground. The Watchers appeared. Electromagnetic chains, frequency blockers. But the target was not me, RT. The target was Aras. The leader stepped forward. Uncontrolled beings are removed. Aras frowned. I am not your enemy. Not yet. The Watchers threw the chains. Aras was caught in the air. Not electricity. Frequency. A wave that suppressed the human side and provoked the vampire side. Aras knelt. Mert saw it. A moment of hesitation. Then he shouted to his army. Fall back. But he did not fall back himself. Mert attacked the Watcher leader because destroying Aras was his responsibility, no one else's. While Aras struggled inside the chains, Mert clashed with the leader. Why do you protect him? Asked the leader. Mert answered sharply. Because he is my mistake. The leader smiled. No, he is your evolution. The chain frequency increased. Aras's eyes turned completely red. All the vampires in the city shivered. Connections trembled. Aras did not scream, but the city heard it, and the chains broke. Not only physically, he shattered the frequencies. Watcher devices exploded. Electricity died. The night went dark. Silence, smoke, destruction. The Watchers retreated. Mert knelt on the ground. Aras stood, but his eyes, they were both red now. The human side was suppressed. Mert saw it. And for the first time he felt fear. What did you do? He whispered. Aras did not answer, because there was a voice inside him. Let go of control. In the distance, sirens rose while Aras slowly turned away. Mert did not stand. He only watched. This was no longer four of old friends. This was the birth of a new kind. And that kind had not chosen a side yet. The night was cold. The sea wind was sharp. The city of Odessa was quiet. Aras did not move. He was no longer running. He was the center. The Watcher vehicles approached. Aras stayed still. He was not the one escaping anymore. He was the center. Watcher records, secret file. Code name, Sanguis. Threat level, unknown. Prediction, disturbs balance between species. The Watcher leader looked at the screen. If it spreads, vampires and humans will lose control. A soldier asked. Should we destroy it? the leader answered. First we learn. Soldiers raised their weapons. Aras closed his eyes. The connection opened. But he did not give orders. He showed them memories of childhood. Their homes. Their families. A brief warmth. The weapons lowered. The commander shouted, but no one fired. This power did not create fear. It created empathy. In Istanbul, Mert felt it. The connection was different. No force. But attraction. Mert whispered, Sanguis. The word was not strange. It felt like something from an old text. The Watcher archives opened a dusty file. Date 1483. Place Florence. Note: the combination of human and vampire is not theoretical, it was seen once. The species disappeared because it balanced itself. The leader narrowed his eyes. So history repeats. That night on the Odessa coast, Aras was alone. The consciousness form appeared beside him. They gave it a name. Aras looked at the sea. I am not a name. The shadow smiled. No, you are the beginning. A new vibration in the distance. Another city. Another consciousness. Aras flinched. He was not alone. Somewhere. Another person carried the same frequency. Sanguis was waking for the second time. The screen went dark.